welcome to today's video where I am going to be walking you through a brand new offering that we're going to have at Gutsy Green for one-on-one clients, and that is going to be a bioresonance test by Creating Balanced Health. So bioresonance is pretty incredible. It harnesses this idea that physicists have known forever, which is that everything in the universe is made up of energy. There was this guy named Einstein, maybe you've heard of him. He discovered the equation E equals mc squared. Everything is energy. So what if this energy could be quantified and measured? How could we apply that in our lives? This is exactly what bioresonance achieves by measuring the vibration of different compounds in your body to give you insights about your health. So you may be thinking, this sounds really woo-woo, and in a way it sort of is, but there's actually a growing body of research that really validates that these bioresonance measurements seem to have really great implications for health. Applying this technology has provided positive outcomes for managing autoimmunity, for managing inflammation, for managing allergies, a growing list of conditions. So in terms of how we use the bioresonance testing at Gutsy Green, my primary modality of testing is blood work. I require that all one-on-one clients get blood work before they come to see me. But bioresonance testing can be a great adjunctive. It's really complementary to blood work because it gives you more specific kinds of information. So say your blood work comes up as indicating that you might be struggling with a chronic infection, right? A chronic bacterial infection. Well, what kind of bacteria are you dealing with? So the beauty of bioresonance is that it's going to tell you exactly what types of bacteria you are resonating with. Now, I should be pretty clear that this is not the same as a diagnosis. We're not saying that this bacteria you're resonating with is literally in your body. All we're saying is that the energy of the bacteria is coming up as a stressor in your body, right? But in this way, in offering very specific information, it can sometimes help us to guide our clinical decisions. It can also be helpful in terms of figuring out, oh, where might I have been exposed to something like this? And what's more, it also gives you a ton of awesome information about food sensitivities, about environmental sensitivities, about hormonal imbalances, and things that you can implement as adjunctives to your personal protocol to really accelerate your healing time and create synergy. And I find that they can be really nice to be added in really at any point in the mitochondria mastery map. And you can do them as often as you want. You can do them at every one of the steps, or you can do them just once or not at all, right? But in terms of when I generally like to see them, I like to see them at the beginning, and then I like to see them right after the parasite cleansing phase, just to make sure that we have addressed everything that we were intending to. So today I'm going to be walking through a Creating Balanced Health scan with you. They have a bunch of different options on their website, but this is going to be their full scan, the most information possible. So I'm going to be walking through my own full scan with you. I'm going to be sharing with you my precious health information so that you can get a sense of all of the great information that these scans can offer you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you now, and we'll take it step by step. Let's jump in. Okay, so here we are in Creating Balanced Health's full scan for moi. Just a little bit of background information that you might find pertinent about my own health if you're not familiar with me and my work. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called lupus about 4 years ago, but I have since learned natural ways to manage that disease without medication. And most recently, since March of 2021, I have been working through the mitochondria mastery map myself. I've been using tools like blood work, and I've implemented CellCore's comprehensive protocol to really try to get to the root cause of my health issues. And so I want to kind of give you that as a preface so that you understand the lens through which we should look at these results. This is really the culmination of somebody who has been doing years and years of work on their health, and especially recently on root cause elements of their health, okay? So the first thing that we look at here is the energetic system performance, where they look at the 14 different systems in your body that represent your energetic health dial. So you'll recognize a lot of the names of these, the nervous system, the digestive system, your metabolism, your liver, gallbladder, etc. So the important thing to note here is the color-coded key up top here. So we have minor stress is anything between 100 and 80% stress, and I like to call this new stress that has not yet become chronic, and that is between 80 and 60%. Chronic stress is between 60 and 40%. Then it becomes a weakness if it is below 40% and above 20%, and then it becomes a chronic weakness, anything below 20%. So as a testament to all of the incredible work that I've been doing over the years, I was shocked to see how little stress I seem to have in my body. And it's also really telling to look at where the stress is located in my body. We have the integumentary, I'm never sure quite how to pronounce that, but that's basically your skin, hair, and nails. So as part of my lupus, I have always had sort of this redness in my skin. It's a very common symptom presentation for people with this disease. I've also struggled with acne throughout my life. So a stress on the skin is definitely not going to come as a surprise to me. And one of the great things about this report is that it's interactive. So you can actually click on each one of these categories and it'll tell you a lot more about it. So the integumentary system is made up of skin, hair, and nails, and then it tells you a little bit about it there. The other places where I am showing a little bit of stress is my locomotor, which is actually, if you look at it, it's made up of the bones, muscles, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, joints, and connective tissues. What is lupus? It's a connective tissue disease. Basically, your body is attacking your connective tissues. So this is absolutely not a surprise at all that I would have stress here. The endocrine system, let's take a look at this. So this can include your thyroid, your adrenal hormones, your sex hormones. So the endocrine system, I am not surprised at all that I have stress in. I have always struggled with hormones, especially, my menses. They've always had kind of a rough cycle. So again, this is not surprising to me. And then the last one is lymphatic system, which is a drainage system, as we talk about in depth in the Mitochondria Mastery program. So the most important service that the lymphatic system is providing for us is getting rid of your toxins, is funneling your toxins into your elimination pathways, right? So if my lymph is stressed, it means that I am not as able to detoxify my body as well as I should be. So I'm likely going to be a toxic body, okay? So if we go over all of these, it's going to take us forever. But just know that it's really, really convenient to just kind of be able to click on each one of these systems and see what that system is responsible for and how it might be impacting you if it's stressed. So I just think it's so cool that given my unique health history of having an autoimmune disease, having some skin issues, having some hormonal issues, that these 4 systems are the ones that are stressed. To me, that just speaks volumes about how accurate this test is. One remarkable thing is that my immunity seems pretty strong, even though I have an autoimmune disease, right? So I just want to kind of show you that as kind of a hopeful thing for people who are struggling with autoimmune disease and are worried about ever getting off of their pharmaceuticals, or, that they'll ever be able to control their symptoms and normalize their immune system. I'm living proof it can be done. I have a systemic autoimmune disease that is supposed to attack and destroy my body's own DNA, right? That's what lupus is. And my immune function in terms of the bioresonance is coming up at an 89%. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and then another really cool thing that the scans show is the specific organs within these systems that are the most significantly stressed. So for me, my skin, like we talked about, I have some skin issues. It's been a chronic problem for me. My lymphatic drainage, and my throat and tonsils. And so what's so nice about having this really specific information is that we can use it to incorporate specific clinical suggestions. So for me, I already do a lot of dry brushing. I already do a lot of Epsom salt baths to try to stimulate lymphatic drainage and to drain away from my throat and my tonsils. So I know that I need to up my game, right? I probably need to add in some lymph supporting herbs. I probably need to increase my skin's ability to eliminate waste, right? By sweating more. So I'll be incorporating more of those modalities. For my throat and tonsils, I'm going to be thinking about, oh gosh, do I have some kind of sinus or oral infection that might be putting a stress on my throat and tonsils? So these are all things that I can really begin to think about, especially as we move down the report and look at the resonating toxins. And then it does provide your secondary specific tissue that was also coming up as stressed. So for me, that's the pituitary and pineal glands in my brain. So those are big impactors of our endocrine system. They are basically the glands that secrete the initial hormones that tell the rest of your body to produce the proper amounts of hormones, right? So making sure that I'm supporting pituitary and pineal function will be great, maybe through a glandular, red light, lots of different ideas there. And then fatty tissue is really interesting to me, especially given this lymphatic drainage stress up here, because where does our body store toxins? Lots of people think it's the liver, but actually it is in our fatty adipose tissue, our fatty tissue. That's where we store toxins when we can't get rid of them. And especially people who are dealing with things like chronic weight gain that they can't seem to lose. This is so important to understand. Your body is always going to put on fat, hold fat, if it has toxins to store. So if you try to get rid of that fat without being able to handle the toxins, your body is going to freak out. Right? So your body is always helping you by putting fat on. It's always helping you. I love that mindset shift, So many of us make an enemy of our bodies when we're thinking about especially weight loss. But for me, this is just going to mean, okay, how can I really support my body to kind of do a deeper cleansing of the stored toxins in my body? You know, I'm somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of body fat, and in that way is probably less protected from the toxins that might be stored there. So I'll need to think about really increasing my drainage to get those toxins that are stored in my fat safely out of the body. Okay. All right, so as we move down, let's just try to keep in mind all of these systems that we've already identified that are stressed, because everything that we will go over below will plug into the story up here, right? And then just one more brief comment on how this plugs in with my blood work. So I'm somebody who has chronically low lymphocytes. I think that's fascinating considering my lymph health is questionable. I'm also somebody who has chronically low cholesterol and triglycerides, which are precursors for sex hormone production and proper endocrine function. So all of those things that we're finding in the blood work are really being corroborated here with this information. Okay, so let's move down. So next we have energetic sensitivities. So here we're going to look at foods, we're going to look at environmental toxins, different ingredients like additives and preservatives, beverages that are basically stressing your body's vibration. So it created a disruption and an imbalance. So that's telling us that these inputs we're specifically sensitive to. All right, so you can actually look at the full list of every single thing that is tested. If you click on that link up there, they test so many different things, all of these different sugars, additives, they do food dyes and preservatives, xanthan gum in here. Beverages, if you're reacting to alcohol, tea, coffee, dairy alternatives. I don't see oat milk on here. That's such a common one for people, so that's kind of unfortunate. But oats will definitely show up under grains. Yep, there they are. And then all of these food categories are likely pretty self-explanatory, but I want to click on the environmental one because this is really, really important. So this looks at all of the different environmental kinds of stimuli that might be throwing your energetic balance off, right? And this spans the gamut. I just want to scroll so that you see how comprehensive this is. It has everything from, bugs, snakes, spiders, smoke, if your neighbors are smokers, and polyester, if you wear polyester and that doesn't agree with you, if you have plastics that you're being exposed to, if you have too many fake fragrances in your life, perfume mix, if you just painted your house and that's causing a reaction. Mold, this is such a huge one for those of you who suspect whether or not you might be dealing with something like mold in your house. This is going to be a huge one to look for. Ink for people with tattoos, fossil fuels if you live right by a road and are being subjected to all kinds of car runoff and exhaust. That would be a good one to look out for. EMFs. I see this a lot in client reports. So especially if you live by, 5G towers, or if you have a lot of Bluetooth and wireless in your home, you'll want to look out for that. If you have a lot of allergies, dust is a big one. And then all of these other ones. So this is such a cool part of the test because it gives you information about what your body is reacting to around you right now, even beyond just food. Okay, so let's go back down. Here we go. And check out what I had. So sugars, all of the 0-calorie sugars I seem to be sensitive to. Aspartame, NutraSweet, stevia, xylitol, and then white sugar, brown sugar, butterscotch, corn syrup, etc. So I tend to just stick to honey and maple syrup anyway, so this isn't that, world shattering for me. Still great to know because a lot of supplements will have things like stevia in it and xylitol. Dairy, I know that I am super sensitive to dairy, and that is incredibly backed up by this test. I actually had been starting to introduce a little bit of mozzarella cheese, and this is coming up cheese mix. So that means all kinds of cow cheese I'm reacting to. So I will no longer be adding that cheese in. Shellfish, one of my favorite foods on the planet, is coming up pretty intensively. I'm so glad that mussels isn't on this list because I love to eat mussels, you guys. But this is great to know because I actually love to eat this stuff. Vegetables, avocado. I have avocado toast almost every day for breakfast. Love me some avocados. Not anymore. My body obviously needs a break. So these are great examples for how we can use this information to inform our everyday decisions. So a lot of these foods are considered health foods, right? But for me right now, they are creating an imbalance in my energy that is throwing my health off. Of course, I have a gluten sensitivity, so wheat and white flour is both going to be out. And then the only additives are the red food dye, sodium sulfate, BHA, BHT, pretty intensive additives that you usually only find in processed junk food. So I'm not too worried about those either. So I just want to take a moment for myself here with the rest of this because nothing else came up. Environmental, that whole long list that we looked at, nothing is coming up for me. So I'm so thrilled with this, right? I've taken so many steps to try to make my environment more adaptable for myself, more tolerable. I don't use fake fragrance. I have an air filter. I drink clean water. So this is really showing me that all of those steps that I've taken are paying off, right? So this is so cool to me. But often what I find for clients is that the environmental part of this is going to be pretty extensive, and that can actually be a great place to look because it'll give you a pretty immediate place to focus your attention, right? So if something like EMFs is coming up, you can immediately implement a nighttime routine where you're unplugging all of your Wi-Fi material and you are maybe creating a safe room where you don't have any Bluetooth or wireless happening there. You can buy EMF mitigating products. A couple exist out there that are pretty nice. So there are things that you can do to really act on the stressors that this category identifies for you. Okay, so these are the sensitivities, which is a really cool component of the test. But they don't just stop there in terms of food. So scrolling down, they actually look at which nutrients, when added in, completely balance out your imbalances, right? So what they did is they added in all of these nutrients, and what happened is all of these imbalances in our larger systems got back into this minor stress category, right? So they figured out what needs to be added to the body to allow it to rebalance itself. So I obviously have a lack of enzymes. I've known this quite a while. It's part of how I identified the SAFE process that I teach inside of Start With Your Stomach, right? I've always needed a little bit of extra digestive support. So my enzymes that I take with meals, I'll continue to take. Vitamins, I'm low on beta carotene, on PABA, on B5, and vitamin C. And what's so cool is that they actually include the best sources of these nutrients below the vitamin suggestions. So for beta carotene, kale, carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach, mustard greens, etc. So one of the things I should clarify is just because things come up, nutrients come up, doesn't mean you're not eating them in the diet. I eat this stuff all the time. I likely have some kind of an absorption issue, maybe underlined by some of the toxins that we'll see below. But all that this means is that I should be focusing more heavily on these foods. So the enzymes, I think, definitely kind of plug into that lymphatic drainage picture. Enzymes really help your lymph to remain thin and flexible and easily movable throughout your body. So a lack of them can create stagnation in that pathway. Fatty acids definitely speaks to the endocrine disruption, because they're precursors for making hormones. And they also speak to the fatty tissue stress that we saw up top as well. Getting more fatty acids to kind of create more of a buffer between myself and the toxins stored in my fatty tissue is probably going to be a great idea. So adding in these fatty acids is a great idea. And then there was one more down here, the mineral section. I'm low on boron, calcium, and selenium. You definitely can sort of use this as a guideline for how to think about your diet while you're moving through your protocol. But this actually isn't the primary thing that you should be doing to address your imbalances up top. This is a secondary thing that you will be thinking about. So really what we need to kind of do to address those imbalances is going to be through the remedies that they suggest. So we'll talk about that down below when we get to it. All right. And then we get to the fascinating part, the energetic toxins. So as a reminder, I have been completely through the mitochondrial mastery map. I went through Cellcore's comprehensive protocol, which is designed to target each thing: drainage, parasites, mold and metals, Lyme and co-infections, viruses, and cleanup. So I have already spent time diving into all of those steps. So this is such a great way to illustrate that our body is like an onion, right? What we find on the outer layer and take care of does not mean that we won't find more and more underneath as we gradually peel those layers away. So I am stoked that I have peeled away some nasty, toxic layers already, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a bunch of stuff still waiting for me in my inner layers, right? So even after going through all of that, look at the energetic toxins that are coming back for me: mold, bacteria, metals, parasites, viruses, and chemicals. That's all of them. That is all of the root cause toxins, right? So this is just a great thing to keep in mind. You know, we love to think of progress as being very linear, but I think that this onion analogy that they use at Creating Balanced Health is so great, and it really helps us get to an important mindset, right? So even though my systems up top were relatively balanced, my body's still working on a lot, okay? So let's kind of look at what we've got here. For mold, I have a resonating mold and fungi that grows in plant debris, soil, and decaying wood. I also have one that can be found on the hair, skin, or nails, transmitted from person to person. And then I have a mycotoxin, or a mold toxin, that is produced by some species of molds typically found on crops, and you inhale this mycotoxin. For bacteria, I have a resonating bacteria transmitted from person to person. And look at this, a resonating bacteria often transmitted by ticks, fleas, or mosquitoes. So likely some kind of Lyme or co-infection. I have some heavy metals. I have some parasites. I have viruses and chemicals. So if you are getting your own scan, you will just get this amount of information in terms of your toxins. But we, as the practitioners, get more specific information that we will share with you during your consult. But the reason we don't give you the specific information right away is because we don't want you to conflate this information with a diagnosis. So to kind of reiterate, just because a specific species of bacteria or parasite is coming up, it doesn't mean you're infected with this species. It just means you have energy of that pathogen in your body, and it might be left over from something that once was there. It might be there, or it might have just been some energy that you picked up somewhere. That doesn't necessarily mean that the actual organism is present. Energy is so weird, you guys. But let's go ahead and look at what my specific toxins were that were resonating. So Ehrlichia, which is a tick-borne bacteria. Rickettsia is another tick-borne bacteria. Often these two come together, so you'll often hear them referred to as Ehrlichia and Rickettsia. The chemicals that I was resonating with were pesticides and herbicides. The heavy metals that I was resonating with were lead and silver. And then the molds were the Nigrospora spherica and the Dermatophilus conjulensis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And then the mycotoxins. And then finally, the parasites that were coming back were the chelamasticus. Echinococcus is a parasite. It's often passed from dogs. I do have a dog that I associate with really regularly that I love dearly. It's my parents' dog, so I will definitely be wanting to monitor my relations with him. Mycoplasma are kind of like antibiotic resistant bacteria. They don't have a cell wall, so a lot of antibiotics are kind of useless in combating them. And then I think chelamasticus, I'm not sure. I believe that is a type of protozoan that is actually not believed to be harmful to humans. And then these last two are viruses, arbovirus and grip, which is another word for influenza version 2. So yeah, this is awesome information to have. It's a little overwhelming, right? But again, we want to be thinking about this as these are the energies that I'm carrying with me in my body. I don't necessarily have these things, but I'm carrying their energy, okay? Oh, and then one more thing I wanted to mention up here is how these toxins actually plug into the imbalances that we saw up top there, right? So Ehrlichia and Rickettsia both love to hang out in the lymph. All Lyme and co-infections, all tick-borne or vector-borne pathogens love the lymph, okay? So why might my lymphatic system be so impaired even though I am doing lymphatic drainage modalities? Probably because these guys are obstructing it, right? So addressing them is really going to be important to getting my lymphatic system moving and back up to speed again. Another thing is the Dermatophilus conjulensis, which is a fungus that is associated with the skin, could definitely be one of the things that are stressing my integumentary system, right? My skin. So these are giving us a lot of great information about why the stuff up top is happening. Pesticides and herbicides, I know that glyphosate in particular gets into your connective tissue and weakens it. So that could definitely be something that's happening for me here. And then lead and silver, where does that get stored? It gets stored in your fat. When your system gets overwhelmed at detoxing heavy metals, where do they get put? In your fatty tissue, okay? So all of this completely makes sense with everything that we saw up top. And then finally, we have energetic hormonal imbalances. So they actually will only list the top 3 or 4 hormonal imbalances that you have. They scan like over 20 and they can all come back as being there, but they don't like to list them all out because it can be really overwhelming. So obviously I had a stressed endocrine system from up top there. And I have low aldosterone, I have low bradykinin, and low progesterone. So all of that makes complete sense. Okay, so the last part of the report is the remedies. What's so cool about creating balanced health is that they actually will take the time to scan, here, let's read about it, against thousands of potential remedies, including herbs, homeopathics, and nutritional supplements. So they basically present to you every single thing that they found that together result in a complete rebalancing of the systems up here. So all of the remedies that they're going to present to you resulted in a complete resolution of all of these systems when they tested it for it. For me, because I am a CellCore using practitioner, they will test CellCore against your sample. They don't usually do that, but they're so flexible over there at Creating Balanced Health that they agreed to do that for me. I really appreciate that. So the two products that came up for me were the lymphatic detox and the biotoxin binder. Those are no surprise, right? My lymph obviously needs a lot of help. So the lymphatic detox, that's actually called Lymph Active now, but that's really going to help with that. And then the bacteria and parasites and mold that I may be dealing with in my body, they all produce biotoxins. And that's really the part of them that my body is reacting to, right? It's their metabolites, their poop. So we need a binder to bind all of that stuff up and get it into the elimination pathways. So these two products are great choices. For me, I would have chosen them anyway had they not come up here. But beyond the CellCore stuff, basically they want me to do something called series therapy, which is a homeopathic remedy. So I'm pretty new to homeopathy and I'm super excited to give this a try and see how it works for me. So there is a company called Des Bio that does something called series therapy. So in this protocol, I will implement this allergy rescue, which is meant to reduce symptoms, including runny, stuffy nose, sneezing, red, itchy, watery eyes. So I'll do that. I will do a kit meant to increase my drainage. This is what the detox kit does, so I'll do that. And then I have two targeted series kits meant to actually address the toxins that came up for me. So one of those things was the mycoplasma. Remember, I had resonating mycoplasma. Those are the antibiotic resistant types of bacteria. So I'll be implementing one of those. And then also Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is basically the disease that is often caused by Ehrlichia and Rickettsia species. So those tick-borne, vector-borne pathogens, we're going to be targeting those through this Rocky Mountain spotted fever homeopathic kit. Then to support my detoxification pathways and address some of those nutritional imbalances that we saw, I'm also going to be adding in liposomal glutathione and vitamin C. So I'll be doing all of this at the same time for about 2 months with the CellCore products. And hopefully that's going to be resulting in some big gains for me. I'm so excited to try it out. I will definitely post a follow-up video to let you know how everything went. All right, my friends, I hope that you found that walkthrough as fascinating as I do. I'm going to go ahead and share with you all of the information below this video about how to order your very own bioresonance scan. If you use our promo code, you're going to get a very special discount on the test and on the remedies should you decide to go ahead and go with the suggestions that they provide for you. So if you want a more comprehensive, intensive experience in terms of how to address the findings that come up, then you can go ahead and check out our Mitochondria Mastery program, which I will link to below. It's our signature 12-week group program where we are walking you through the Mitochondria Mastery map. We are providing a group community where you can connect with your peers. We provide education modules every single week with jaw-dropping information and action steps, and 3 one-on-ones with me where we'll look at your blood work and we'll design targeted, personalized protocols to get you back on the road to health. If, however, you are just kind of interested in dipping your toes in with these scans, you can actually book a consult through their website with one of their amazing practitioners over at Creating Balanced Health and get a trained set of eyes on this test to help you kind of interpret the information and apply it to your life. So I highly suggest going that route if you are just kind of interested in testing the waters a little bit. But if you're interested in a more comprehensive experience, then definitely check out our program that I'll link to below. Thanks so much for walking through this scan with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.